Hi, I'm Kelly with citruscycles.ca. This is Riesenmüller's Delite GX Rohloff. It's one of the nicest e-bikes I've ridden. It's custom assembled in Germany, and the attention to detail, the engineering, the quality is incredible. Exactly what you would expect. In this video, I'm going to explain why I love this bike so much, including Riesenmüller's control technology, the Rohloff speed hub, the dual batteries, the Supernova M99 Lite, and of course the dual integrated water bottles. I'll also talk about who this bike is for and why you might love it as much as I do. Then I'll go through all of the details. I'll take you for a ride test as well. The Delite is available in 3 sizes and 3 colors: white, solar orange, and the urban gray metallic that you see here. It's also available in 3 sizes, and this is the medium. You can get this bike, the Delite, as a touring, and then it would come with a traditional chain, an 11-speed cassette and derailleur. You can get the Delite GT Touring, which upgrades the tires. You can get the New Vinci, which replaces the chain and the 11-speed cassette with a low-maintenance carbon belt and the New Vinci continuously variable transmission. You can get the New Vinci GT, which I've done a video review of on our website, and that upgrades the tires as well. Or this model here, which is the GX Rohloff, and this is what the video is going to be about, the Delite GX Rohloff. For detailed specifications on the bike, current pricing, to set up an appointment to come try it here in Ladysmith, or to take advantage of our try at home where we can bring it to you anywhere on Vancouver Island or the Lower Mainland, head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. There you'll find our contact information, so you can give us a call, send us an email, reach out to us on Facebook. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about this bike, and of course you can also order it on our website as well. Let me start by talking about some of the features that make the Delite GX Rohloff special, the things that really caused me to fall in love with it. Then I can help you understand why you might like this e-bike too. So one of my favorite features is Riesenmüller's use of control technology. So we have front suspension on the bike. It's a SR Suntour Ion. It is an air fork, so that means you can adjust the air using a shock pump that's included with the bike to set it up for your weight or to your riding preference. It also has the Rebound Adjustment down here. And the neat thing that Riesenmüller's doing on a lot of their bikes is this is a e-bike specific fork. So that means that not only is it a beefier fork, stronger to account for the higher weight and torque of an e-bike, but they've also tuned it to account for the fact that this bike is going to handle and respond differently than a regular bike because of the extra weight from the batteries and the motor, and because of the higher power and torque. So that's really neat to see. Now, if you have a bike with front suspension, you're probably already aware of the fact that not only does it make the ride more comfortable, but it also helps reduce fatigue, and that's because your arms aren't vibrating the whole time you're riding from rough surfaces. It also gives you more control on uneven surfaces. So if you think about the fact that when you're riding with a front suspension that's open, and you can close it if you wish, it has some variable settings here to choose how open or closed it is. But if you're riding with it open over an uneven surface, the wheel is more likely to stay on the ground than to bump around. And that gives you more control when your wheel is on the ground. It also makes it easier to steer because, again, the vibrations from the road aren't being transmitted to you, and so it makes it a lot easier to stay in control of your bike. And before I forget and move on to the second part of the control technology, I should point out safety is always an important issue with Riesenmüller, and they do have reflectors on the front fork here as well, which is cool. And I should also mention that this front fork does use a through axle. Again, another safety feature. Really the only way to remove the wheel from the bike is a 2-part process. You open up the clamp over here, and then you squeeze in here, turning it, and then you can actually pull the axle all the way out, but it really makes it strong and sturdy. So we've got the front suspension, and you're thinking that's not that special. Lots of bikes have that. It is kind of special because we do have the e-bike specific fork. But what makes this use Riesenmüller's control technology is the fact that we also have an independent swing arm on the rear tire here, along with a shock. So if this were a mountain bike, we'd say it's a full suspension mountain bike. And as soon as I say that, you may be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I don't need a full suspension bike. I'm not doing crazy things off of mountains. I just, ride to work, I go touring, I go exploring, whatever it is that you may do, and you're thinking, I don't really need a full suspension. Well, don't think of it as full suspension. Think of it as control technology. So if we think about what the front suspension fork does for you, the rear shock does the same thing. So yes, it definitely makes the ride more comfortable, really smooths things out. So you're probably going to ride your bike longer if it's more comfortable. It also is going to reduce fatigue. Again, think about it. If your ride is more comfortable, if you're not bumping around as much, you're not using as much of your energy, your core strength, to keep the bike balanced, to keep going the direction that you want to go. It becomes a lot less fatiguing. So again, you can ride longer. But most importantly, this independent rear swing arm with the suspension shock here keeps your rear wheel on the ground all of the time. So now your front wheel is always on the ground, your rear wheel is always on the ground, and that gives you tremendous stability. So this is something I can explain. You can read about on the Riesenmüller's website. Honestly, the best way for me to explain this to people is to simply get you on the bike. So come on by, try the Charger, for example, which is a very similar bike. You can get the Charger GX Rohloff, which a lot of same features with a hard tail. So no rear suspension, no control technology. Then try this bike with that control technology. And you will see that not only just on uneven ground do you feel more confident, do you find yourself traveling more quickly, but around corners. All of a sudden you're taking corners faster. And so it just makes you more confident. When I had my wife try this, and she's not a super confident cyclist. Actually, she tried the Riesenmüller Homage, which is a step-through with their control technology. And she was surprised at how much more confidence she felt. She started riding faster. She was riding more quickly, where she would normally slow down because she felt in complete control of the bike. So not only does this improve your safety because you're able to handle difficult surface conditions, such as broken pavement or railway lines, gravel, and potholes, one of the neat things is it also makes you more predictable for motorists. So you're not swerving to avoid obstacles or suddenly slowing down because of those. So that's a really nice thing to keep in mind, that this control technology really helps to make you safer, and that's really important. So we do have on the back here, I mentioned on the front, we've got the Suntour Ion. It's an air fork. We also have an air shock on here from X2. It's the O2 Pro Fusion from Fusion, and we've got the little valve here so you can adjust the air, and we have a rebound control as well. One of the things that I would love to see is the option to upgrade the suspension fork. On the Riesenmüller Homage, you can actually change the fork to a Fox float, which would be really cool. Maybe unnecessary for most people. That would be a mountain bike specific fork, but that would be a really neat option. Of course, it would increase the price, but it would be fun to consider. So if you're somebody that would like to feel more confident, you want to have more control on your bike, you want it to be more comfortable so that you can go on longer rides, you want to maybe put a child seat on the back rack here and feel confident that they're not only going to have a smooth ride, but you're going to feel like they're more secure and you're more secure when you're riding, then this is the bike for you. So let me talk about another awesome feature on this bike. Riesenmüller uses the new 500 watt-hour battery on all of their bikes here in Canada. That means you get 25% more range than the previous 400 watt-hour battery. The cool thing that Bosch did is this is backwards compatible. So if you had previously purchased a Bosch e-bike and it came with a 400 watt-hour battery, you can buy a 500 watt-hour and put it on there. No changes are necessary. So I love the fact that Bosch really made it backwards compatible and is thinking of that upgradability for future bikes. So now you have, instead of just one 500 watt-hour battery, you have the option of dual batteries, giving you 1,000 watt-hours of battery, which really means you can ride all day. So with this bike, under real-world conditions, with hills and rough terrains, I would say you could get over 300 kilometers on the first level of assistance. And most people would probably ride on the second level of assistance. That's going to give you 120 to 160 kilometers. Again, 5 to 8 hours of riding before you even need to charge the battery. Now, you could bring a charger along if you were going longer than that, which is a bit crazy, but some people, could ride further than that. And you can either charge both batteries on the frame. There's a little charging port right here. Or you can remove the batteries from the frame using the key for the lock and bring it inside and charge it that way. So sometimes on a single battery bike, and you can opt to get a single battery if you wish, you don't have to get the dual batteries. So if you just had the single battery, then sometimes if I'm on the ferry or I'm stopping for lunch, I'll bring my charger in and charge it. With the dual battery, really, I don't charge it until I get home because it's got such a tremendous range. The other neat thing about the dual batteries is not only does it give you obviously twice the range, but it also is going to prolong the life of your battery. And there's two reasons for that. First is you're going to have half the charge cycles on each battery because you're only using each battery half as much as if you had a single battery. The other neat thing that Bosch does is they actually draw 5% from the first battery and then switch over to the second battery, draw 5%, and then switch back to the first battery. And the reason for doing that is it puts less of a strain on the battery. And when your battery is less stressed, it'll last longer. So it's neat to see the little things that they think about. Now, let me suggest to you, even if you think you don't need two batteries, it might be worth ordering this as the dual battery configuration and having us buy back the second battery from you. The reason for that is if you get it just as with the single battery, you can't add the second battery later. The wiring and everything has to be done ahead of time when they build the bike. So we will let you order as a dual battery and buy back the single battery, and then later on, if you do want dual batteries, you can always buy the second battery and put it on there. If you go with the single battery, you can't add the second battery later on. And Bosch even includes a handy little plug that would cover the port on the second battery to prevent it from getting corroded or that sort of thing if you're riding in the rain. Now, a little tip for you: if you're installing the batteries, put the bottom one on first and then the top one, and if you're removing the batteries, take the top one off first and then remove the bottom one. So if you're somebody that wants to ride all day and not worrying about charging, this Delite GX Rohloff with the dual batteries is a great option to consider. Maybe you want to do touring. Vancouver Island has lots of great trails, lots of great places to go touring. Maybe you just like exploring. I love riding on old forestry roads and fire roads and heading down bush roads, I find, to see where they go. And sometimes it means I end up riding all day and I don't have to worry about it. Well, I do have to worry about maybe putting my GPS tracker on so I don't get lost, but I don't have to worry about running out of battery. In fact, I don't even have to worry about running out of battery on my phone, because with the Bosch Intuvia display that they've put on the Delite GX Rohloff here, instead of the smaller Purion display that comes over here, you can actually charge your phone. There's a USB port here, and just ask us when you order the bike for the Bosch USB charging cable, and that allows you then to charge your phone off of the main batteries. So you could really ride all day and not have to worry about it. Or maybe you just want to be able to put the assistance level all the way up to turbo and climb up lots of mountains without worrying about running out of battery. Really, no matter what you want to do, where you want to go, the Delite is going to handle it. So it's a great option to consider. So far, everything I've talked about applies to all models of the Delite. And you may want to check out my video review of the Delite GT New Vinci on our website at citruscycles.ca to compare it with this Delite GX Rohloff. What makes this Delite really special is the use of the Rohloff Speed Hub 14 right down in here. Internally geared, 14 speeds, it's a marvel of German engineering. You can shift while you're stopped or while you're coasting. So you don't have to downshift before a stop. That means you can stop and start on a hill. With a traditional bike with a chain and derailleur and gears that you have to shift, you usually have to shift before you stop. If you stop suddenly and you're in the wrong gear, it's really hard to start off. I mean, you could pick up the back wheel and turn the pedals, because the only way with the chain and derailleur, for the chain to go to a different gear is for the chain to be moving, and it needs to be moving when you're pedaling. And so that's why you'll find that you have to shift before you stop, or if you're coasting and you want to shift gears, you have to start pedaling again. With the roll-off, you can shift while you're stopped. It shifts instantaneously, and you can shift while you're coasting. So that's a really cool feature. It's something I love about it. You can also shift through all of the gears. So that means we can start off in 1 and shift all the way over to 14, just like that. The great thing is, as I twist it, as I turn this twist shifter here, it's shifting. So the bike isn't moving. You don't have to wait. As soon as I turn it, it's instantaneous. It's really quite extraordinary that it shifts so fast. It takes some getting used to, because on a regular bike it has to go through one whole pedal revolution before you actually shift. With the roll-off, it does it instantaneously. So if you're heading down a hill, you're flying down, and you see you're going to have to go uphill soon, you can easily shift to a different gear without actually having to pedal. Or if you stop suddenly, maybe in the middle of a hill or something like that, or traffic, it's really easy. If you're pedaling hard and all of a sudden, bam, you have to stop, no problem. While you're stopped, shift out the shifting, and you can shift while you're stopped or while you're coasting. Now, you will have to let up a little bit on the pedaling in order to shift while you're pedaling, especially if you're climbing a hill. When you come and you try out the roll-off the first time, it'll be a little bit of a learning curve, but over time you'll find that there's a really good technique, because it shifts so quickly. One of the cool things you can do is when your pedals are up and down, there's no force on them, and so that's when you shift. And because it's instantaneous, you really don't have to stop pedaling for very long at all. So one of the things I've kind of done to try to help myself get better at it is, while I go along, every now and then I'll just practice shifting, back and forth between 2 or 3 close gears, just to get that timing down. Because if you're coming from a bike with a chain and derailleur, you already do that automatically. So this is just a new technique to learn, and you'll find that over time it's really a lot faster. Another benefit of the roll-off is the massive 520% gear ratio. That means that low gear is really low for climbing any hill, much lower than you'd find even on a 27-speed mountain bike. The high gear lets you pedal at speeds up to and above 65 kilometers an hour. So I tested this the other day. I was flying down a hill. I got up to 60. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it in 14 up here, and I'm going to see how hard I can pedal to still make it go faster. And will my legs turn too fast? And no, I could bring it up to 65 and a little bit beyond before I felt like my legs were spinning too fast or that I wasn't contributing anything to it. So that's really cool. So I mentioned that the twist shift is how you shift here. I forgot to mention while we were up here, the indexing for the shifting is not in the twister here. So if you have a regular bike with a chain and derailleur, you'll notice that sometimes, with the trigger shifters, you shift it and the shifts are a little messy, or it's shifting on its own and things are out of whack. That's probably because the indexing is out, because the cable has stretched. So, you've usually got a little thing here, and you twist that and tighten it up and try to adjust it. With the roll-off speed hub, that isn't necessary, because you actually have 2 shifting cables here, and when you twist, it pulls one of them, depending on the direction that you're shifting, and all of the indexing is done in the hub itself. So down here we've got the shifting box, and so there's nothing to go out of index. There's nothing to, the cable can stretch, it won't affect it, because it's still going to shift correctly because the indexing is in the hub. So that's a really great feature. And in fact, really, the idea behind the speed hub is that there's very little maintenance. Once a year, every 5,000 kilometers, you need to change the oil, but that's about it. This is used by people that do bike touring. So they put thousands, tens of thousands of kilometers on their bike in a year, and they don't want to do any maintenance. This is what you get. In fact, there's roll-off speed hubs out there with over 300,000 kilometers on them. So they last longer than your bike. People will buy a speed hub, and when their bike dies, they'll take it off and put it on the next bike, because it's really super durable. It'll last forever. The other great thing about an internally geared hub like this is that it really reduces the wear on your chain, because on a normal cassette your chain is jumping up and down, and that can really wear it out. With a single sprocket like this, we've got a single sprocket back here and one up front, and the chain is just running the same line all the time, and so the chain lasts a lot longer. And so what that means is that even though it's an upfront expense, over the long run, the roll-off will actually save you some money, because you're not buying new chains, new cassette, new derailleurs every few thousand kilometers. And when you look at the pricing for the Delite GX Rohloff compared to the other Delites, you'll actually find out that this is a really good value. A roll-off on its own is really quite expensive to buy, and so not only does this save you money in the long run, because you're not having to replace the chain, cassette, and derailleur as often, in fact very rarely would you have to replace the chain even, it also saves you time, because there's no more maintenance, there's no more adjustments, there's no more having to clean the derailleur, worry about it getting out of whack, that sort of thing. So it's really fun as well. I love riding the roll-off. It takes a little while getting used to it. Like I said, you do have to ease off the pedaling when you shift, but it's just fantastic experience. Really, the only thing I wish that they would have changed about this is, you can see we've got a bash guard here. It's an aluminum bash guard, which is great. Keeps things from, sticks or whatever from getting in your chain here. But I would have maybe liked a bit of a chain guard on here to protect your pants while you're riding. So maybe that would be one thing that I would change. But otherwise, if you want to be able to shift while you're stopped, so that you don't have to worry about downshifting ahead of time, especially in traffic where you might have to stop suddenly, or if you want to be able to shift through multiple gears even while you're closing, or you're just tired of the maintenance and the cost of a derailleur setup, and you want something that's going to last forever, then the Delite GX Rohloff is a great option to consider. When you upgrade to the GX Rohloff, not only does it add the Rohloff Speed Hub, but it also adds this amazing Supernova M99 e-bike specific light. When Supernova first announced this light, I was super excited, but it costs over $600. So this may sound a bit strange when talking about a bike in this price range, but the GX Rohloff is actually a really good value when you consider what it would cost you separately to buy the Rohloff Speed Hub and the Supernova M99 light. Now, the Delite GX Rohloff is the only version of the Delite that includes this light. So what makes this light so special? Well, there's a few features really. First, it is really bright. On high beam, and there's a control right up here, there's our high beam button, I'm going to press that. And on high beam, which it's on now, you get 1600 lumens of automotive certified brightness. If I put it back down to low beam, that still gives you 1100 lumens, and it uses a dual beam pattern. You can see two beams, and you think, well, that's kind of strange. Why did they do that? Well, Supernova did some research, and they found that two distinct and extremely bright arcs of daytime running lights are not only more visible from further distances. I should go like to the other side of the field there and show you, but you can really see it from a super long way off. But it also sends a subconscious signal to motorists that it's a fast vehicle instead of a slow-moving bike. Isn't that interesting? That basically your brain goes, oh, there's something fast coming because it's got dual beams. So that helps to keep you safe. On high beam, it can illuminate 380 meters ahead of you and will illuminate the complete width of the road. And it does that when you put it on high beam, I'll put that on again, by using 99 mirrors. Actually, I'll turn the high beam off so you can see the mirrors in there. There we go. There's actually 99 mirrors in there that use those 9 automotive grade LEDs to make it super bright. So not only does this light make you safer by allowing you to see further ahead in the dark, it also helps make you safer by helping you to be seen and recognized as a higher speed vehicle that can't be ignored. So if you ride at night, or even if you only ride in the day, but you often ride in traffic, the Delite GX Rohloff is a good bike to consider because it is going to keep you safer. So some of my favorite features on the Delite GX Rohloff include the speed hub, the Rohloff speed hub, the dual batteries, the control technology, this awesome Supernova M99 Pro light. But probably one of the top features, which is going to sound crazy, is the dual integrated water bottles. Now that may seem like a silly thing to say, but e-bikes are notorious for not having anywhere to put a water bottle cage. You've got the batteries taking up so much of the space on the frame, there's really nowhere to put them. Now, of course, you could put a handlebar water bottle cage, or you could put them on the back of the seat, but I love what Riesenmüller's done here. They've put these fabric cageless water bottles, so you can see the bottle itself just has a couple of places here, and on the frame we've got these two knobs here. And so basically the bottle, you just line it up there and it just slides right onto the frame. And so you get two of them right at the front here, and very easy to access while you're riding, and just, you know, looks great. It isn't cluttering up, and if you're not riding with them, you don't have this cage, and once you get the hang of it and the bottle's loosened up a little bit, they're really easy to grab on and off. So all of the Delite series, I believe, actually maybe just the GT versions, you'd have to check the website, come with the dual bottle option, but it's fantastic. They come with the bike, and I love it. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some of the other features that contribute to making this an excellent bike. Obviously, we've got the Bosch Mid Drive here, makes a big difference on this bike. It does come with the Performance Line CX. We're really fortunate here in Canada that this year Riesenmüller's only putting the Bosch Performance Line CX on their bikes. The CX tells you that you get more torque for climbing hills, you get a higher level of assistance in the upper two levels of assistance, and a new feature is you get e-mountain bike mode. Now, this isn't a mountain bike, and you may be wondering what would I want e-mountain bike mode for? It's a really cool feature. So when we come up to the display here, right now you can see we're off. When I press the plus button on the remote here to move to a different level of assistance, we can move to Eco, we can move to Tour, and we can move to what was formerly called Sport, and down here you see it flashes eMTB. I'll do that again. eMTB, so it's telling you it's in mountain bike mode. And if I press it again, I go up to turbo. So what is this mountain bike mode, and why am I so excited about it? Well, mountain bike mode automatically, dynamically adjusts between those three levels of assistance, Tour, Sport, and Turbo, based on the conditions. And you're thinking, well, what do you mean? Okay, so the Bosch system measures your torque, that is, how hard you're pedaling, measures how your cadence, that is how quickly your legs are moving, and it measures the bike speed. You can see there's a speed sensor right back in there and a magnet. It measures those things 1,000 times per second. So it's basically reading your mind. So because it knows how fast your legs are moving, how hard you're pedaling, how fast the bike's moving, it can basically figure out when you're trying to climb a steep hill. And it gives you more power automatically. In the past, when you were climbing a hill, you'd have to move it up to turbo manually. And then when you're back on flat, you don't want to leave it on turbo because it'll use up a lot of your battery. Maybe it's too fast for you. You like to work a little bit more, so you'd press the minus button to get back down into Tour. With the e-mountain bike mode, the bike does it automatically. So it knows when you're climbing hills and you need that extra power, it gives you that extra power. When you're cruising along on flats or going downhill, it'll move that back down to Tour. So that's a really cool feature, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really glad that it's the Performance Line CX and not just the regular Performance Line. Of course, where I live, there's a lot of hills, and so I love having the extra torque that the CX provides as well for climbing hills. If you're not familiar with the Bosch Mid Drive, it is one of my favorite drive systems that's available. It keeps the weight low and centered instead of in the rear tire. A Mid Drive also has the advantage of turning your chain instead of the wheel. And so that means when you change the gears in the Rohloff Speed Hub, it's impacting the motor because it's turning the chain. And so it's like the transmission in a car, and it is having a valuable effect on the motor to help it be more powerful for climbing hills. It also makes it a more natural experience rather than being pushed along by your rear wheel. You've got the chain driving the belt, and it's reliant on you pedaling. and it's very responsive. Because it's got that torque sensor in there, as soon as you stop pedaling, the motor stops. If you pedal harder, you get more power from the motor. So it's really a very natural feeling, very responsive, very intuitive, especially with that new e-mountain bike mode. You basically just turn the bike on and ride. That's it. It's very straightforward, very easy to operate. Speaking of the operation, everything is controlled from the Intuvia control panel up here. It is removable, so if you wanted to bring it in with you to keep it out of the elements, you can. It even works while it's off of the bike, so you can actually cycle through using the I button, the trip computer down at the bottom, so you can see the maximum speed, your average speed, the trip time, that is how long the bike has been moving. And if I put it back on the display here, I can cycle through that over on the remote here as well. I don't have to do it on the display. I can also look at which battery is being used right now and what the capacity of that battery is. You can look at the estimated range, and this is a brilliant feature. So it basically says, look, based on how much capacity there's left in the battery, your last 4 or 5 kilometers of riding, and the level of assistance you're in, this is how much further you can go. And that will change dynamically, not only as you change the level of assistance. So if I go to Tour, it says, okay, well now you can only go 96 kilometers. And if I go up to Turbo, it's 59. When I ride it, it also changes. So the last 4 or 5 kilometers I rode on this bike was up a steep hill. So it's saying, look, if you keep going up that steep hill, you can do it for another 96 kilometers. Once I level out and do some easier riding, then this number is going to increase as it recalculates and says, okay, well now that you're mostly riding flat, you can go way further, and it'll recalculate that. So at the top of the display here, we've only got 5 bars for the battery, which on a dual battery system doesn't really tell you a whole lot. But like I said, you do have the other display where it shows the number of bars on both batteries. So sometimes people say, hey, I'd really like to see a percentage. And yeah, that would be really cool. But you know what? What are you going to use it with that information? Like really, what does it matter that you've got 72% more capacity? What you really want to know is how much further can I go before I need to charge my battery? And that's where that range calculator becomes really handy. I've also got an odometer on the bike to tell you how far the bike has gone. And so that's all available through the I button on the remote or on the display itself. Also on the display, we've got our current speed, we've got the fact that the lights are on, and there's a light button here to turn the light on and off. Reese & Muller actually programs this bike so that the light's always on, and since you've got a daytime running light, you might as well use it. It's not that bright that it's going to be impacting on traffic. In fact, there's a legal requirement in Germany that you can't blind oncoming traffic, so they designed the light that way. So I can reprogram that if you wish, so that you can turn the light on and off, but by default right now it's always on. You've got your level of assistance, which I've already explained, the e-mountain bike mode. If I were riding the bike, you'd see a graph here going up and down showing how much assistance the bike is providing. So that's the Intuvia display. It's part of the Bosch system. I've talked about the dual batteries of the Bosch system. One thing I like to point out is that the Bosch batteries have a really intelligent integrated battery management system, and so that's really going to help prolong the life of your batteries, and that's really nice to see. When you make an investment in a bike like this, you want it to last a long time, and you will get those batteries lasting a really long time. One of the other great features on this bike are the inclusion of this rack. It has pannier blockers here so that your pannier bag isn't going to get caught in your spokes. And it even comes with a bungee cord that's actually integrated and built in here, so you can slide this little slider to adjust the length of the bungee cord, so you can put taller things on here. And it just kind of clasps onto the end here. It's a rubber, so it's got some flex in it. And you know, it's just the little features like that that really show the attention to detail that Reese & Muller puts into their bikes. We've got the rear light integrated into the rack here as well, along with the reflector in there and a reflector on the fender. The wiring for the light is run through the rack instead of underneath the fender, so that's going to help make sure that you're not going to eventually have the wire fall off and rub on the tire. Again, just the little things that are attention to detail. This rack, by the way, is fully suspended. It's part of the rear independent swing arm of the bike, and so it's really neat, especially if you're putting a child seat on there, you're going over a lot of bumps. That is nice and smooth. You're putting eggs on there. If you're going grocery shopping, they're going to be well protected. So that's pretty cool. The ABUS folding lock here comes with the bike, and the key is the same key that you use to remove the battery from the frame. And a folding lock, if you're not familiar with it, this is metal bars, but because really a cable lock can be cut very easily, so metal bars are a little bit harder to cut. Unlike a D-lock, which can be rather difficult to mount on the frame of your bike, this folds up nice and small. And not only does it fold up nice and small, and see if I can do that with one hand, there we go, for storage, but it also makes it easier when you're locking it to a bike rack or something like that compared to a D-lock. I will point out I've put a little piece of tape here. One thing I've noticed is that little nub here that kind of holds the flap shut sometimes falls out, and you don't want to lose that. So I put a little piece of tape there. I'm going to try to get maybe some black Gorilla tape or something. It'll look a little bit nicer, but I wanted to put that on right away so I didn't lose that nub. So that's nice, and like I said, the lock is the same key that you use for the battery. And Riesenmuller actually gives you this beautiful little Riesenmuller keychain that you can use to hold your key, and you get multiple keys. One of the neat things as well is that the motor actually knows your key number, and of course you get a tag with your key number as well, and so if you ever lose your keys, you can put the key number in on the ABUS website and they'll send you out a new key. So that's pretty cool. In addition to the rack, of course, I mentioned we've got the fenders, and these are really super sturdy fenders, the SKS. We've got a couple stays here to make sure that it doesn't flap around. It's also connected to the frame in a couple places, and really makes it very durable and quiet, and it's a great system. I think they're plastic, so they're not going to rattle, which is nice as well. So I do love having the integrated fenders. It means I can ride this bike all the time and not worry about getting muddy from the road. I will point out the pedals. Pedals are a tricky thing for bike manufacturers to do because some people may want to use clipless shoes and they'll change the pedals right away. Some people might like pins on them. Other people might not like pins because it'll cut up their shins. So basically these are kind of a rubbery, grippy type of pedal. For myself, I will change them out to wider platform pedals with pins because that's what I like to ride. But for someone like my wife, she would really like these pedals. So, you know, plan on maybe upgrading your pedals, and that's true of any bike. It's not a fault of Riesenmuller's. They have put a little integrated kind of chainstay protector here. What's interesting is it's very unlikely for your chain to actually move up and down and hit the chainstay like you would on a regular bike, because the tension on the chain here remains consistent even as the rear swing arm moves up and down because of this innovative pulley system here. This is actually really cool because you'll see on some other models of bikes that use the roll-off in a full suspension, they actually have to have a couple of kind of jockey wheels down here to try to accommodate the chain tension. So this is actually a really clever idea that allows that to stay the same. But they put this on here, I guess, just to kind of keep it clean from any grease or that sort of thing that might be on your chain. So again, just those kind of little things, attention to detail, that is really cool to see on a bike that's custom assembled in Germany. Okay, so let me talk about these tires. These are Schwalbe's Rock Razor. They have the race guard, they're tubeless easy, they're snakeskin, Travel Star 3. So basically a high degree of puncture resistance. Fairly easy to set up tubeless, which is great. And these are the Alex Rims MD40s. Now, if you've checked out my video review of the Charger GX Rohloff, which is in many ways a very similar bike, but without the control technology, you'll see I talked about these Rock Razors being a really surprising tire for me. I actually found that they're fantastic in all conditions. Schwalbe kind of designed them not really as an all-condition tire, and if you put them on a narrower rim, these are 40mm rims, which is a brilliant idea, really. What happens is these knobs don't really come into play, and so on wet and that sort of mud, they wouldn't be a very good tire. But because Riesenmuller's put them on these 40mm rims here, you can see that on the middle here we've got these lower profile knobs, which gives you less rolling resistance, so you can go quickly on this bike, but still enough grip there to grip in if you're on gravel. But soon as you get into wet conditions where there's a little bit of mud, you're going to sink in enough that these side knobs here are really going to start digging in. So I've been really impressed. I've tested out these tires on wet and mud and all sorts of things, and I've actually been really impressed with them. Now, of course, you could, if you're doing a lot of off-roading, you could change to something even more specifically off-road, such as some knobby necks. Or if you were only riding on pavement and you wanted to change these tires out to something slicker, you could do that as well. But I really like the rock razors. I love the puncture resistance from them, and I love that you could actually set them up as tubeless, which is great. So the last thing to talk about, and hopefully I haven't missed anything. If I have, feel free to call or email. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Oh, look at that, I have missed something. The grips, these are ergonomic grips. They're actually very comfortable. They are locking, so you don't have to worry about putting a lot of weight and having them shift, which is really great, especially while you're stopping. No, the mirror doesn't come with the bike. That's one that I added myself. The cockpit here is a really nice setup. They even include a little bell, which I've mounted on this side beside my headlight high beam button. So brakes, yes, these use the Shimano Dior XT hydraulic disc brakes. So great stopping power, lots of modulation to allow you to have a lot of control over the bike, and even a toolless adjustment here. So if you want to bring the levers closer or further away, you can adjust that without needing a tool. You just twist that there. So it's nice to see that you've got the power from the Bosch system to go fast, but the power of these brakes to slow you down when you need that. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about this bike. The features such as the control technology, the roll-off speed hub. Hey, I forgot something else. The cool integrated kickstand, which uses the KS40 format here. So it's actually part of the chainstay, which is great. The dual batteries, the dual water bottles, the Supernova M99 light. All of those things add up to really make it a fantastic bike. It's comfortable, it's safe, it's going to last a really long time, and require very little maintenance. So if you would like to come and try this, head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. I'd be happy to set you up with an appointment, because when you consider all of the upgrades on this bike, the quality, the fact that it's made in Germany, it's a great value. But what really makes this bike awesome is how well it rides. So come and give it a try and see for yourself what an awesome bike this is. For more information, for questions, head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. I would have downshifted because I may have to stop. The great thing about the roll-off is I didn't have to downshift because I can downshift while I'm stopped, just like that. The advantage is that if it turns out I didn't have to stop because there wasn't any traffic, then I could have just stayed in the gear that I wanted. Rather than having to anticipate every stop, I can just go ahead and shift when I actually need to. It's really interesting going for a ride with the roll-off and realizing how much shifting I do on my regular bike, always anticipating when I'm going to need to downshift. And it's a little bit of a habit that I have to get out of. Just relax, ride, and enjoy, and really only shift when I actually need to. The other thing that takes a bit of getting used to with the roll-off is how fast the shifts are. As soon as you twist it, it's done, it's shifted. You don't have to have a full revolution of your crankset for the chain to finally make its way down or up onto the different cog on the back cassette. So it just takes a little bit of getting used to letting up to shift, but only very briefly, because it actually only takes a moment for the shift to go through. I really do love the full suspension aspect of the bike, the control technology. It's a good example of a little bit of a pothole. Just drove right through it on a hardtail bike, regular bike without a rear suspension swing arm. You'd probably be inclined to swerve to avoid it. Hopefully you first check your mirror, look behind you to make sure that you're not going to be swerving into traffic. And then if there is traffic, well, then you're kind of going through the pothole, trying to slow down suddenly. And again, changing your speed suddenly can also be dangerous when riding in traffic. So it's nice to have that control technology that really allows you, just to ride right through. It's going to be comfortable, and more importantly, both your wheels are going to remain on the ground, keeping you in control of the bike. Now hopefully my GPS is working correctly today and the camera is working correctly. You should see on the screen the speed calculated by the GPS, which isn't always going to be particularly accurate. It's a bit slow. The display here, that's actually measuring the wheel speed, and that's going to be more accurate. So it's going to show my elevation. Too bad I had to slow down on that hill for the car in front of me. I could have demonstrated to you with the Rohloff speed hub here. When you move up into that 14th gear, you can keep pedaling well above 60, 65 kilometers an hour, and your legs aren't going to be moving too quickly, and you'll still actually be providing input power to the bike to sustain your speed. That's one of the real advantages of the Rohloff, is that wider gear ratio. Once you get used to the shifting technique, it really is a fantastic system. You'll notice on sections of the ride like this, I easily exceed that 32 kilometer an hour cutoff for the Bosch Mid Drive. E-bike laws in Canada require that the motor stops assisting you once you reach 32 kilometers an hour. The nice thing about the Bosch system is it really, you almost don't notice it. I mean, all of a sudden you realize, yeah, you know what, I actually am pedaling a little bit harder because they don't have that assistance, but it really kind of eases you off of it. It's not sudden or jarring. I've updated the Bosch CX here to the latest firmware, which gives you the e-mountain bike mode instead of sport mode. So if I press the minus here on the remote back to tour, if I hit plus again, you'll see it flashes eMTB on the bottom, telling you that I'm in e-mountain bike mode. What that means is the bike's going to automatically adjust between tour, sport, and turbo for me based on, well, theoretically it's based on measuring my torque, cadence, speed of the bike 1,000 times per second. The reality is that it's more or less reading my mind. So it knows if I'm heading up a hill, pops it into turbo, I'm back on flat, moves it back down to sport or tour. And I've really been enjoying that mode, and especially, in the past I had a single battery bike. I would be fairly careful or judicious with my use. With my use of the higher levels of assistance, because I want to maximize my battery. With the dual batteries, I'm really not as concerned about that. I don't want to ride in turbo all the time. They don't need that much extra power. But the e-mountain bike mode is great because I no longer have to manually shift between sport, tour, turbo, etc. depending on the conditions. I can just pop it in there and it knows what to do. No battery, not worrying about it. That's a good example of a situation where it's handy to have that control technology, a little bit of broken pavement, a hill with a corner. Just at the end there, I startled myself with the gravel on the pavement and momentarily forgot that with these rock razor tires, you don't have to worry about slipping. You get lots of traction, lots of control with them. Every now and then when I'm coasting, you'll hear that speed hub. And it is a bit louder depending on the gear that you're in. So there's 7. It's pretty quiet. 8 is a little bit noisier. After the first 1,000 kilometers or so, it really breaks in and becomes a lot quieter. But it's not an unpleasant sound. I actually quite enjoy it. But I can see how some people might find it that it would take some getting used to. But like I said, after a break-in period, it does become quieter. Now the Bosch drive here also has shift detection. So when I'm shifting, it's also briefly cutting out the assistance to the motor, just to help make shifting a little bit easier. It also has shift recommendations. So on the display here, if I'm in a wrong gear, I go into high of a gear, it should actually recommend to me to shift up or down. Now I may have turned that feature off. I'm gonna have to check when I get back to see if I need to enable it. It's kind of handy, it just helps you to optimize not only your pedaling, your cadence, but that also helps with the battery usage as well. Makes the motor more efficient when you're pedaling in the right gear. That's the thing to keep in mind with the mid drive, is it is leveraging the mechanical advantage you have with gear systems such as the Rohloff on this particular bike. So when you shift to an easier gear, it's empowering the motor to help you more climbing up hills. Okay, I'm going to dial back down to tour, go a little bit slower on this trail to enjoy it. Every now and then you'll hear a clattering noise, and that's usually a rock or a stick in the fenders, which means it's hitting the fender instead of my legs, my back, which is nice. These are very nice fenders. You don't hear them rattling at all. They're very secure. I believe they're plastic. They're from SKS. Fenders can be a tricky thing. You know, I love having them when I'm riding in the rain in the winter. But, you know, sometimes fenders can be annoying to get bent or out of whack, or they rattle. These are really quiet. I've never had a problem with them rattling. They're also really well secured to the bike. Each, the front and the rear fender have 2 fender stays. As well, they're also connected to the frame in a couple of places as well, and the fork on the front. Okay, I'm just going to cut the video for a moment until we get to a big hill up here to help conserve the battery life. I really like the kind of semi-upright riding position of the Delite GX Rohloff. It definitely, you know, on a mountain bike, you'd have a very flat stem. Here, this stem is much higher angle. I think maybe a 20% or 20 degree angle, and a little bit of swept back handlebars. Really nice and comfortable grips. But at the same time, I don't feel that it impedes my control of the bike, my steering. If I get into more technical trails, I still feel a lot of confidence in my ability to control the bike. We've got a bridge with wooden slats. It's very bumpy. It's really nice with that control technology just kind of floating over it. Coming down that hill, I really noticed and appreciated the Shimano Dior XT brakes. There's a lot of modulation in it, so it really gives you a lot of control. You don't have to worry about locking up your brakes, which is great. So yeah, sometimes with an upright riding position like this, you may find that you feel like you're compromising control of the bike, but I don't notice that here. Put it up into e-mountain bike mode for the hill, just so it can judge how much power I need to climb. Could have put it in turbo as well if I wanted. That Supernova M99 Pro light definitely helps to make sure that I'm seen both on and off the road. And of course with that high beam mode, it gives you 1600 lumens, which is incredibly bright. And I love the fact that it runs off the main battery. I do have you know, strap-on lights that are that bright. The problem with them is when you put them on a really bright setting like that, the battery doesn't last that long. And because it's running off the main battery, I don't really have to worry about that. The amount of power it's going to use from these dual 500 watt-hour batteries is pretty minimal. On the video, again, the coasting, depending on the gear I'm in, becomes silent or not, and it's a good reminder that you know, you can shift while you're coasting, and it takes effect immediately, not once you start pedaling. So that's a really neat feature. There's a bit of a Rudy trail, good opportunity to try out the front and rear suspension. These are air forks, so it comes, the bike actually comes with a shock pump, which is nice. A lot of times you have to buy that separately. And it allows you to set the air according to your weight or your preference of how you want that fork to respond. So one of the things that I do first few rides is bring that along. You know, there's formulas you can use as to what PSI you should put in, but at the end of the day, you just want to try it out until it feels comfortable for you. And you can also adjust the rebound. I'm really happy with the way the suspension is set up right now. It's really absorbing a lot of these routes. I can go through here at a higher speed, feel more confident than I would on a bike with a less capable suspension or no rear suspension. Okay, here's a hill we can see how fast we can get going pedaling on.
Okay, so I was easily hitting 50 and still pedaling at a fairly slow cadence. Didn't feel like my legs were hamster wheeling. And like I said, I've done it before at about 65, and it's very impressive. Here's another example of even urban riding, where you get stuff like this, brakes on the pavement. If you're commuting on this, you're probably going to, slow down a bit subconsciously because you don't want to injure yourself on these holes here. It's like I can just fly right through them. It's kind of funny because I know they're there when I'm riding over them, but I think that's from the noise. I don't think I actually feel it when I'm riding. Well, I'm going to go find another trail here. I'll just take a pause on the video and start it up again in a few moments. Normally I'm dodging puddles here. We've had quite the dry spell on Vancouver Island the last few weeks. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find some mud for you to test out these Rock Razor tires. Fortunately, I have tested them before. Rebound uses the same Rock Razor tires on the Charger GX Rohloff, and I had one of those for a while. I loved the bike, and I remember when I was doing the long-term review, the only thing I said that would make it a bit better would be if it were full suspension, and well, here we are, full suspension. It is fantastic. The tires in the mud do quite well. Because Rebound used 40mm rims, it really widens out the tire and brings those side knobs more forward. So you don't actually, they were originally designed by Schwalbe for digging in when you're cornering. But the nice thing is, if you get into some mud and you start sinking a little bit, they'll dig in right away without you needing to corner. So I was actually really impressed with how well they handled in the mud. Just have a little bit of a trail. This is the Princess of Wales Park. Lots of little trails like this. Get up some speed with this Bosch CX. Have some fun. You don't need hills to go mountain biking. You don't need a mountain bike necessarily to go mountain biking. This is quite capable of light mountain biking and trails. And really the limiting on this really serious trail riding would be if you'd want to take the fenders off. You can get yourself into some trouble with fenders on trails with mud and sticks and that sort of thing. Although it's nice with the roll-off, actually, not to worry about your derailleur getting sticks or mud. That was a bit of a tight corner there. So now the fenders do have kind of a quick release feature where if you do get something stuck in them, try to come off the bike rather than break. So that's handy. But again, that's, serious mountain biking, you're going to need to take that off. The tires. You'd probably want to put something even knobbier than these, although they're quite good. Choice would be yours. The Delite Mountain, which is this exact same frame. Rebound's gone with the 2.8-inch tires, which is fantastic. I love those. Set them up tubeless on mine, get the tire pressure low, you get loads of traction. There's really no disadvantage to it, other than they don't make any fenders that'll work, but I said you're probably going to remove the fenders anyways. The other limiting factor might be these are good air forks, but they're not the best for mountain biking. Again, they're quite acceptable. suitable, and a lot of low-end mountain bikes use these actually. But if you're doing, you know, really serious stuff, you probably want more travel, maybe 140, 150 millimeter travel. I think this has 100 or 120 millimeters, so it's not quite as much travel and not quite as plush as, say, the Fox Float or something like that. But for these kinds of trails, the bike works really well. I haven't run into any problems with it. The brakes are quite suitable for it. So if you're looking for a bike you can kind of do everything on, other than you know, real serious drops and jumps and that sort of thing, where you would want, you know, the wider tires and the 140, 150 millimeters of travel, then this is a great bike. It's nice because you can do a real good combination of pavement, trails, gravel, mud, you name it. It's going to be able to handle it all. And the nice thing about it is it's going to handle it in comfort, because you are more upright than you would be on a mountain bike. You've got these nice comfortable grips here as well. You're also not going to have to worry about maintenance with this Rohloff speed hub. It's brilliant because you really don't have to worry about your derailleur and cassette. The chain's going to last a really long time as well. Now it doesn't use a belt. That'd be kind of cool. Even less maintenance. For some reason, Muller, and I'm not sure which of them it is, but maybe both of them, they're engineers actually, and they don't like the combination of the belt and the roll-off. So they go with the chain. It means, you know, every now and then you're going to want to keep clean your chain and oil it. It's not a big deal, but of course the belt would be even less maintenance. On the other hand, chains are right now a little bit easier to find than a belt, but yeah, either way it works out well. If you really want a belt, then you can get the Delite GT Da Vinci, which I've got a video review of on our website you can check out. Well, riding in traffic is boring. Turn off the camera for a bit, turn it back on when I've got some more exciting hills for you. Alright, well, I'm heading back down onto the Stocky Creek Trail. I'm loving the modulation in the brakes there. You've got adjustable levers, you don't need a tool for it, you can just turn the dials there. It's handy if you ride all seasons like I do. The nice thing about this e-mountain bike mode is it is very responsive. So you get a corner like this where you want a bit of power to get up over the bridge, but you need to turn. You don't want too much because you don't want to go flying off the bridge. It's going to be exactly the power that you need, which is great. You're not going to get that in your rear hub motor bike, even if it has a sensor. At least not that responsive, but still helpful. Alright, we've got actually quite a steep hill. I'm going to put it up in the turbo. And what's interesting about this hill is actually the steepest part is right at the very top. So it's a tough hill to climb. Now, I can get up this hill on all of our recent Muller bikes, including the ones that have the new Vinci CVT. But I do feel that having this extra gear ratio on the Rohloff makes it a lot easier. It's interesting, I'm told by Muller that they actually have to dial back the amount of torque a bit when they have their bikes with the belts in the new Vinci, because the new Vinci system can't quite accommodate the same level of torque that the Rohloff can handle. So I'm going to have to do some playing around to see if I can really notice a difference climbing hills. I do feel that I had a little bit more power going up that last hill on this Delite Rohloff than I was riding with the New Vinci. That could just be my imagination, or could be having a better day than when I rode the New Vinci. But I mean, it would theoretically make sense because from what I understand, the New Vinci system wasn't quite built to handle the same maximum amount of torque as the Rohloff, or perhaps it's just Reese Miller's experience. You know, knowing the Rohloff is such a strong, well-engineered piece of technology. Not that the New Vinci isn't, but yeah, I'm told that they do dial the torque back a bit. Torque, of course, is what you need for climbing hills. It's not really going to make a difference to your maximum speed on flats, but when you have a hill, you definitely want that torque to help you get up it. Well, this is actually a really fun bike to ride on this trail. We've got some roots and rocks and corners and, you know, lots of loose stuff, and in the winter lots of mud, and it's handling it really well. I'm confident. Lots of torque for climbing there. That's pretty incredible. Forgot that I had left it on turbo for that hill, and that's one of the things I like about the e-mountain bike mode. Is I frequently forget I have it on turbo, and I'm just flying along and realize, oh, yeah, I'm going a little bit quicker than I usually do, or perhaps I should be doing. And so it's nice having the mountain bike mode where I really don't have to worry about changing that. We've got a fun little trail up here, the Whirly Jane Park here in Ladysmith. It's short, windy. For thrills, sometimes I'll, especially in winter, it gets dark early, bring my light, do a few laps around and see how fast I can get going without crashing into a tree. First, to make sure there's no pedestrians around first. It's a lot of fun. Trail on, it's a much forward, more aggressive riding position, which does give you more control of the bike. And it has the 2.8-inch knobby neck tires, which is a lot wider, and you get the tire pressure lower. So I'm curious to know how this bike will compare to it. And obviously, I'll be aware of its limitations so I don't like it. Lean a little bit more, these rock razor knobs really just keep right in there. It's great. I just have to remember to do that leaning. I think that was the best. And definitely takes some getting used to the fact that I can shift while coasting. I'm so used to you know, pedaling lightly, even down a hill, or you know, pedaling and braking so that I can shift. And this roll-off is necessary. It's awesome. I do need to watch for blackberry thorns on this trail. So there, my mount, I could probably get a little bit more air on that bump on the way up. Bosch calls that uphill flow. Give it another try. When you flow uphill like you do downhill. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's beautiful scenery and shows you some of the fun things you can do with your bike. There's probably not, well, the primary use for this bike. It's handling it quite well, especially once I'm learning to really dig in, lean the bike on the corners. A little bit of air there, but yeah, definitely the mountain does give me more flusher ride and a little bit more agility with it, but you don't want to own two bikes. This is a good kind of all-around bike that can do everything for you. The funny thing is well, I can't say I own two bikes. I own multiple bikes. Cargo bikes, fat bikes. Those don't count. In this case, I actually have the Delite Mountain and this Delite GX Rohloff. Fantastic bikes. I'll cut the video again here and come back on when we get to the big climb on the way home. So this isn't necessarily a really steep hill, although I imagine if I weren't on an e-bike I would suggest that it is very steep. It's long. I'm curious to come back and watch the video to see what the grade is here. This is where I'll have to do a comparison. You know, I'm just shy or around 20k going up in turbo. To give a try with the bike with the Da Vinci in the belt and see what I can average. See, it's getting less steep now, getting above 22. You know, it is nice with the Da Vinci system. Debating between the two of them. It is nice with that CVT being continuously variable. You don't have to worry about being in the right gear. You just give a little twist, find the cadence that works for you. Rohloff isn't bad. You know, you definitely start to learn what works best for you. And it is interesting that the gear steps on the Rohloff are all equal. You know, have noticed this on a regular bike with a chain, cassette, and derailleur, but the gear steps aren't equal, and so sometimes switching between one gear and another gear seems like a bigger change than others, and that's true. Whereas with the Rohloff, it's all equal the whole way through. So it makes it fairly predictable in figuring out when you should shift gears. Again, you do that shift detection that's available with the eMTB display, which you can turn on and off. Finding that even just after a few rides, I'm getting much faster at coordinating, letting off the pedals and shifting. When you get really good at it, you can time your shifts so that when your pedals are in the up and down position, because it really is, it just takes milliseconds to change. It's just a matter of timing it. Once you've got that timing down, it's really easy to shift very quickly. Alright, so this has been the Transmuter Delite GX Rohloff. Of course, it has front and rear suspension as part of their control technology. Rohloff speed hub, Bosch Mid Drive dual batteries. For all of the details, head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. If you have any questions, call or email, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. enjoy the view as I head down one last hill. One more climb before home.